Welcome to the Customer Marketing Summit 2022. I'm Dan Cody, Chief Marketing Officer at Influitive. We are proud to be the headline sponsor of this great virtual event, which features more than a dozen sessions and more than 24 industry experts. Customer marketing has hit the mainstream, and for good reason. Business leaders understand that higher retention, faster growth, and stronger profits come from satisfied customers and loyal advocates. That's why they're investing more than ever in customer marketing and advocacy programs. So let's get started to learn how customer marketing can propel your business forward. Enjoy the summit.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Sullivan. I'm a Customer Reference Marketing Manager at Google Cloud. Welcome to my session at the PMA Customer Marketing Summit. My session is called Customer Marketing and Advocacy, a Two-Way Street. We'll dive into what I hope you take away from today's session in a moment, but first, let's take a peek at the flow of the session today. First, we'll touch on customer advocacy tenants, how they're so important to your organization, and some things to keep an eye out for. Then we'll dive into building superfans and building partnerships with our customers, which is key to ensuring that there's a two-way street in all things customer marketing and advocacy. Next, we'll talk about trust, building trust with our customers and bringing value back to them at all times. And then finally, we'll talk about the fact that a great customer story benefits the customer the most. Now let's touch on what I hope you learn today. Of course, I hope you learn that customer reference marketing and advocacy is a two-way street. That's the title of my session, after all. But really, what I really want you all to think about is that both you and your customer advocates should get value out of participating in marketing and reference activities. It's up to you, it's up to me, it's up to us, all of us customer-facing marketers, to understand how to bring value back to our customers. It's up to us, it's up to you to recognize and commit to delivering the value the customer would like to achieve when partnering with you on these marketing activities. We work for our customers do not work for us. This is the golden rule that I keep in mind in customer reference and marketing advocacy. In this session, you'll learn how to be a partner, a true partner to your customers. You will hear about ways to help them meet their own marketing goals and objectives, and how to clearly articulate tangible and intangible value that customer reference marketing and advocacy activities can bring back to our customers and to their organizations. Let's dive into customer advocacy tenants. My team at Google Cloud keeps these customer advocacy tenants in mind whenever we're approaching partnering with the customer, whether it's the first time and it's a kickoff call with a customer, or we're a year into the partnership and we're continuing to build our co-marketing partnerships with our customers. Each and every time we approach our customers, we should be keeping these customer advocacy tenants in mind. The first is customer empathy. This is key. This is priority. Always keep customer empathy in mind when partnering with your customers, whether it's for a blog, a reference call, or a marquee speaking opportunity. Let's keep in mind customer empathy in all of our approach. The next is ensuring we're delivering a best-in-class, exceptional customer experience always. And sometimes when we think about customer experience, we think about sales. We think about salespeople delivering a customer experience, but this is not the case. Of course, it's important for sales to deliver a best-in-class customer experience, but anyone at your organization who's touching the customer must keep the customer experience in mind. And it's up to us, the customer advocacy marketers, very often to ensure and to advocate internally that all customer-facing marketers or anyone touching the customer is keeping the customer experience in mind. We have to be partners to our customers and ensure that they're getting the best-in-class experience. The next is making sure that the customer voice is inserted into everything that we do. Next is listening to that customer voice. We have to listen to the customer voice and ensure that we are hearing the customer and making them feel heard. And then finally, we must surprise and delight our advocates each and every time we engage with them to the best of our ability. On our team here at Google Cloud, we live by Simon Sinek's golden circle and value above all else the power of storytelling and, of course, customer empathy. The golden circle demonstrates that we must start with the why, and then we'll get to the what and the how. Because people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So the why is the purpose, the cause. The how is the process and the actions. And finally, the what is the result and the output. And I like to add one more thing to this golden circle, which is the who. Who is doing all of this with your organization, with your products, with your services? It's your customer. It's an organization that's teaming up with you. They have a vision and you are enabling that vision. And let's take that step, thinking a step further here, because it's not just an organization that you're partnering with, but actually human beings who make up the who. So now we have the golden circle and we have the golden rules in mind. So let's dive into paving out that two-way street that is customer marketing and advocacy. And I want to dive into building super fans, because building super fans helps us build a true partnership, helps us build that two-way street. And it's important to keep in mind that not all customers are references. They're not all going to be advocacy champions. And then not all advocacy champions and references are going to be super fans. But let's try to map out how we can nurture those customer champions, those customers that are references, into being super fans. And before we do that, I want to address why advocacy champions, especially super fans, are so important and so worth that effort, that extra effort that may go into the partnership and may go into your day-to-day work stream. First and foremost, references have an 80 to 85% likelihood of influencing a B2B purchasing decision, according to Gartner. Only 18% of prospects trust the salespeople they work with during the sales process, while 92% trust what they hear from customers, according to the Harvard Business Review and Demand Metric. Word of mouth marketing is key when it comes to accelerating the sales cycle and building market awareness, but most importantly, customer trust. And trust creates that two-way street. Superfans help to drive enterprise momentum and are truly an authentic voice for industry or product solution proof points. Superfans will advocate on behalf of our organization sometimes without even being asked. Maybe they'll mention us in their earnings. Maybe they'll reference our organization in their social media channels or blogs or additional channels that they have. And because of a strategic co-marketing partnership that we built with these superfan customers, we can then lean on them to support our organization to be first movers in participating in the highest impact marketing activities. These customers are more likely to share business impact metrics, which are key in creating amazing content. They're more likely to participate in PR or media or maybe analyst engagements that really bring value back to our organization. And they will be, or maybe they'll be open to participating in those peer-to-peer sales reference calls, which we all know are key in accelerating the sales cycle. And there's so much more I could list. But let's take a look at what these customers look like and how we can turn them into super fans over time. So a super fan is an active reference. They may have one or more, but likely more champions or individual people that are willing and open and able to participate in marketing activities, create assets or content with us, participate in sales peer-to-peer calls when available. These customers are often maybe on your customer advisory boards. Maybe they're beta or alpha testers. They're longtime customers, and they have probably more than one use case deployed, and they're showing impact and results at this phase. These customers are advocating without being asked, like I mentioned before. And maybe sometimes they're proactively coming to your organization with ideas for marketing and collaboration. So to nurture a traditional customer reference or advocacy champion into a superfan, we all, us customer-facing marketers, should recognize that these customers are out there. We should recognize this criteria and identify them. And after we identify customers that display these behaviors, we know that they could be potential or future super fans. We should lead and work with the account team to understand the organization's goals. What are their goals for partnering with your organization? What value would they like to get out of referencing, or what value have they gotten out of referencing so far? We should be setting up meetings with these customers and presenting to them what a co-marketing partnership could look like. We should build a proposal around the value that we know the customer wants to get out of reference marketing. And if we don't know, we should be asking the customer. This is a partnership. This is a two-way street. We should find out what they would like to get out of this partnership. What would they like to get out of partnering with your organization? What are they interested in participating in? We really want to understand what are their marketing goals and objectives. What are their brand objectives? And how can some of our channels help support and uplift their story? We really want to understand the value that marketing can bring and deliver back to the customer through these co-marketing activities, and maybe some of the requests that we may have for them. And we want to understand this and communicate this to the customer and commit to them that we understand that the value that we want to be delivering back to them. And why not set up a regular cadence with this customer so that we can understand and communicate clearly month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year. I can't emphasize more. We have to ask the customer questions. We have to listen to the customer when they tell us what they want to get out of this partnership. And then we have to show them that we know them. We have to show them that we listen, and we have to show them that we care. And then once we have a super fan, we have to keep them a super fan. We have to keep nurturing that partnership and that relationship and that two-way street. Some of the best practices that we should be implementing with all of our super fans when possible, and to maintain and grow their super fandom, is to maybe have regular meetings with them, like I mentioned before. Show them the value that you've delivered in the past. Give them recaps, give them stats, give them metrics of the content that they've participated in so far, or maybe the number of impact that their reference activities have delivered. And really be that partner, be an extension of their team. And what we should be doing, us customer-facing marketers, is we should be advocating internally at our own organizations for these super fans to ensure that we are providing the best possible experience to the customer when it comes to their participation in marketing activities. Us customer-facing marketers, customer marketing managers, customer advocacy community managers, we should help to educate our internal stakeholders about the customer's policies so that we can show the customer that we listen, that we understand them, and that we don't want to make requests of them that are outside of their policies or outside of their parameters that they have given us during our co-marketing partnership meetings. We have to ensure that we bring them high impact marketing opportunities, and we have to ensure that we are fulfilling the promise of delivering continued value back to both the customer organizations and the individual champions that we meet and partner with. So now let's talk about how we should be trusting and trustworthy of our customers, and how trust can bring value back to the customer. Customers will not be comfortable advocating for us if they do not trust us. And trust takes time, but we can try to move that timeline and that journey along a little bit more quickly if we bring value, if we add value. The most important way to build trust with our customers is to give them something that they value consistently and often and selfishly, quite honestly. I learned some of this in an Influitive blog that I read a while back, and I always keep that in mind when I'm working with my customer. How can I bring them value month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year? And how can I make sure that I'm doing it selflessly, thinking about only the customer's needs, and at some point that value will become that two-way street and it will come back to your organization. Otherwise, we're just kind of building a relationship with our customers that's purely transactional, or it just seems like we're always making asks of the customer, and it starts to feel like they work for us. And if you remember that golden rule, we work for them. It's not the other way around. So if the only thing that we care about for them is, coming to them when we need something from them, or right before they sign that contract, or right before that renewal, or maybe when we need their logo approval in a slide deck, they're going to feel like they can't trust us as much, or they're not going to have that intrinsic trust in us, and they're less likely to be super fans or super champions over time. So let's talk about 3 key ways where we can offer value to our customers to then build that trust. We can be trustworthy, we can bring that value. So we have to remember, first and foremost, that these are human beings. These are not just organizations. These are not just logos. These are human beings that we're working with every single day. It's personal. It's not just business. It is indeed also personal. So building trust with our customers means getting to know them as human beings and not just as people who use our products and services. We have to take time to learn about them, what they like to participate in, what they like to speak about, what brings them value as an individual, what brings value back to their team, and what brings value back to their overall organization. And on the business side, it's great to ask them pain points that they've been having, maybe when using our product, using our service. How can we bring some value back? How can we partner with the account team to alert them on some of these flags? But also listen to them, again, about what they like to participate in when it comes to reference and marketing activities, and then only bring those types of opportunities to them each time we connect. It's also important to know what their professional and personal goals and motivations are. Are they thinking about a promotion? Do they think that speaking publicly will help their team get more awareness for the great work that they're doing? This is all really, really great info, and it will help us keep in mind how we can be the best partner to the customer and keep in mind the value that they're expecting to get out of this partnership. Second, we have to listen to our customers and show them that we hear them, show them that we're listening. One of the best ways to get your customers really invested in our organization, invested in the advocacy community, is to give them a role in helping to shape the products that they use every single day. Are we getting them involved in beta testing? And then through that beta testing, are we getting them involved in the announcement for when that product goes GA, and really demonstrating the journey and the leadership of innovation that customer has taken and enabled by our organization? Are we ensuring that these customers are joining our customer advisory boards and feedback forums and really getting a part of the conversation of shaping the organization that they're being advocates for? These are all great ways to ensure that our customers feel like they have a seat at the table, a say, that we're listening to them and we're showing them that we're listening to them. These things will all benefit our organization. It will benefit our advocacy community, but it will also benefit their organization and their teams. And it will really make them confident that they know and they feel passionately about the products and services that they're using, and then hopefully talking about externally on your organization's behalf. And finally, your customers are typically more familiar and with the products and services that they alpha and beta test for, that they feel like they've been a part of shaping. And then, of course, They are not only more confident to use these products and services, but then to be advocates for them. They want to collaborate. They want to be a part of the building of these products, especially if they have distinguished engineering and developer communities. And we can hopefully help them to be a part of that, and then help them to be a part of speaking about the important impact that these products and services have had on their organization through all these wonderful marketing activities and ways in which they can share their story publicly through our own channels. And lastly, the third way that we can hopefully offer value back to our customers and really build that trust is by making it fun and making it meaningful. Again, you have to be listening to their customer, not just about the use cases that they want to share when it comes to your products and services, but what else is important to them? What else is important to their business? Is it DEI? Is it sustainability? We really have to find out ways to bring joy and fun, but also meaningful impact back to our customers. And we can share with them things that are going on at our organizations and partner with them and show them that we really have listened to them. And we want to deliver value back to them, not only through the traditional ways of marketing and advocacy, but through ways where our organizations both have passion and ideas and want to contribute to. And how can we do that together? How can we collaborate and bring value back to our customers outside of just the use cases that we partner on a day-to-day? Next up, we'll talk about how a great customer story benefits the customer the most. We really want to always keep in mind the customer advocacy tenets that I talked about earlier. That's customer empathy, delivering an exceptional experience, making sure the customer voice is in everything that we do, listening to the customer voice, and finally, surprising and delighting our customer advocates. We should always remember that the customer is the star of the show. They have a goal, and your organization is truly enabling that goal, and they're enabling them to reach that goal. But this is the vision of your customer. When they reach it, when they hit those milestones, it's them who are achieving these goals, not us. So we have to be able to showcase their success through our content in that way. Again, they are the star of the show, and we are enablers of a vision manufactured by our customers. It's important to keep that guiding principle in mind always when building a customer relationship and a community of advocates and superfans. If we keep those guiding principles in mind, we should be able to successfully and consistently deliver value back to our customers while also bringing value back to our own organizations. There are both tangible and intangible benefits for the customer and the customer's organization when it comes to the decision to participate in co-marketing. Again, this is the value we want to bring back to our customers. So we're creating that two-way street of value when partnering with our customers and when partnering with our advocacy champions. So first, let's talk about the value to our customers. We believe that our customers, if they participate in co-marketing activities, that they should be able to be positioned as innovative, courageous leaders tackling key challenges that will impact their business, impact their customers and end users, and impact the industry at large. We really want to showcase and celebrate the innovation and business impact that our customer and their team are delivering for their organization, again, the industry as a whole, and of course, their end users. We also hope that we can help really showcase these organizations as having an amazing team of technology leaders, and we want to help to encourage others to be a part of this great organization. We hope that we're delivering that value back to the customer and really being a great partner. And if those are their goals, we're helping the customer to deliver them. So that's what's in it for the customer organization. But there's also some things that are in it for the individual. We believe that getting involved in the advocacy community is an opportunity to meet and exchange ideas with executives, with others in your industry, with others that have, like-minded individuals. They may be solution or product experts. They may be fellow leaders. And we hope that we can facilitate that exchange of ideas. We believe that we can position individuals through co-marketing activities as thought leaders. And that could be very important to individual champions that have agreed to participate in your advocacy community and activities. We also hope that we can help to demonstrate the value that this individual, through their leadership, has brought back to their organization. And we'll touch on this in a moment, but this could really lead into getting props in the marketplace, props within their organization, kudos from their peers. And finally, like I mentioned, recognition. This could be for their innovation. This could be for their thought leadership. This could be for the monetary or executive impact that they have had on their organization. So a lot of the above are intangible, but there are things that are tangible and that can have a direct impact on the individual, the human being that is your champion or advocate. So being featured in speaking opportunities or leadership events, that could be something that could help get them recognition, can help them along in their own individual journey. We also hope that they might be able to participate in some of the advocacy activities like awards, and receiving an award, for being an innovative thinker, transformative in their leadership. That could really have a great impact on them as an individual, and of course on their team who's helping them to achieve that award. They might receive a promotion because of the impact that they've demonstrated, and it's public, right? So that might help them in their own career journey. And finally, like I mentioned previously, really meeting experts or peers in their field to exchange ideas and network and really continue to grow as an individual. All of the above could lead to promotions and kudos, both internally and externally at their organization. And we hope to help them along as an individual over time and really demonstrate that, of course, we want to demonstrate the value to their organization and their team, but especially the individual people that we're working with day in and day out. So we've gone through a lot of information today, and I just want to recap some of the things that are so important when we're thinking about customer marketing and advocacy, and the fact that it is indeed or should indeed be a two-way street. So whether it's in B2B or B2C organizations, a customer community of customer advocates and references can be a foundational element of building brand strength, of building the strength of your organization. Customer advocates and reference communities engage and nurture current customers, future customers, prospective customers. Highly engaged customers grow into loyal advocates. So we've got to think about what we talked about earlier when we thought about customers and turning those customers into references and advocacy champions, and then nurturing those advocacy champions into super fans, and then keeping them super fans over time. Our companies that we all work at have amazing products and solutions. However, we have to prove ourselves day in and day out. A community of loyal customers that believe in our organizations and trust us represents an enormous opportunity for brand growth and business gains. Advocacy and customer loyalty is a two-way street. We need to listen to the customer community. We have to listen to our customers. What are they asking for? What are they telling us? Are they seeking insights? And we have to bring value back to the customers, which with each and every customer marketing or reference activity that we bring to them. Meeting the customer needs will translate into engaged customers. And again, highly engaged customers translate into business gains and reveal opportunities to strengthen or grow our own position in the marketplace, our organization's position. And this all sounds great, right? But we cannot achieve any of this, any of the above, without consistently delivering value back to the customer and instilling trust. A marketing organization can build compelling campaigns and publish well thought out content. However, when we say it, it's just marketing. When our customers say it, it's social proof. Anything we say, our customers can say better, more credibly, more persuasively, more authentically, more effectively. I'll leave you with a simple but effective framework that I learned from the CMO over at Atlassian. Know your customer, show them you know them, and show them you care. Thanks so much, everybody, and I'm excited for the Q&A portion. And please reach out to me on LinkedIn with any questions. Have a great day.
Whether you're joining one of our events for the first time, or if you're a seasoned regular, welcome to the Customer Marketing Summit. We have an incredible selection of innovative content lined up for you today. But before we dive in, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, speakers, and you, our lovely audience, for joining us. From wherever in the world you are watching, we're sure you'll enjoy today's talks. To get the most out of these sessions, please make sure you're sharing your feedback and asking your questions in the comments section for our speakers to answer. Each of today's session recordings will be uploaded into our on-demand content library, which you can access with a PMA Pro membership or an Access All Areas pass. We are also really excited to announce that the Customer Marketing Alliance is becoming its very own community. We'll have more information to follow soon, but for now, you can join us in the Customer Marketing Slack channel to connect with peers, get access to fresh content, and discover new opportunities. So with all this to look forward to, let's get started.
Advocacy is a journey that starts with engagement and requires meaningful communication with customers and constant feedback. Let's dig into that and flywheels in this next session.
Hi, folks. How's it going? My name is Patrick Cayley, and I'm a customer marketer based in Washington, D.C., previously at a company called Quorum, which made software for public affairs. I'm really excited for my next job, which this session is being recorded a couple weeks early, so I technically haven't started that new job yet. So I don't get to say the name of it just yet. But ever since I started customer marketing about 2.5 years ago, I've been talking to as many other customer marketing managers as possible. And so one, don't recommend reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd love to chat with you as well. But as we kept having these like roundtable conversations and one-on-one conversations, we would talk about the best ways to run a singular campaign. Like, how do I get the most G2 reviews? How do I get the most referrals and references? And it felt like every time I was having these conversations, it was in a vacuum. And so a friend of mine recommended this book called Good to Great by Jim Collins, where he introduces this concept called the flywheel effect. The flywheel effect essentially means no matter how dramatic the end result, the best programs and things that you put together never happen in one fell swoop, meaning, it's not like one big campaign that you run that ends up creating an excellent customer marketing program. It's these small wins that accumulate over time, creating momentum. And so you can think about it using this example that Jim Collins gives of a flywheel. Now imagine that it's your job to move this like massive metal disc. It's like 30 feet tall and like 2 tons. All right. And so you're trying to spin this disc with your hands. And so you yank it once and it moves like 1 or 2 inches, and then 3 or 4 inches, and 4 or 5 inches. And you do that enough times that you finally get one full rotation. But as you keep pulling in one direction over and over again, after a while, the wheel starts to turn a little bit faster and a little bit faster, and the momentum ends up building until you get to this point where the wheel's pretty much moving on its own, right? So you barely even have to push it, and it keeps going down or keep going around because of all the momentum and inertia that you've built. And that's called the flywheel effect, is that effect once it starts really moving on its own. So he then paused at this point, which is people would then ask, so what was the one big push that caused this thing to go so fast? And it's like, what? What do you mean? What was the one push that made this go so fast? It was the hours that I spent, at the very beginning when it moved 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. It wasn't just one big push, it's all these steady small wins accumulated over time. And so you might be like, okay, that's a great wheel story, Patrick. We're here to talk about customer marketing. But oftentimes, we hear things like, how did you get so many customers to speak at your events? How did you get so many positive G2 reviews? And these campaigns didn't happen in isolation. It took those many times pulling that wheel that only got it moving 1 or 2 inches to end up getting to the point where we got to that flywheel effect, where we were then able to get a lot of speakers to speak at our events and customers to speak at our events. And so Jim Collins identifies a few different ways on how you can create the flywheel effect that are pretty universal. And I want to apply those to the customer marketing fields with the things that I've done and the things that, as I've talked to a lot of other customer marketing managers, what are the things that they've done in order to achieve the flywheel effect? All right, sound good? All right, so here are the 3 big things that he mentions. These are your 3 big tasks. 1 is to reduce friction. Make it as easy as possible and as seamless as possible for folks to participate in your programs. 2 is make the next step obvious. So after they've participated in one program, make the next step obvious so you can then build on the momentum you've gained from then participating in that one program. And then 3, continuously apply pressure. It's not one big swoop that makes that wheel turn so fast. It's all of these pushes over time. So the first one we're going to talk about is reducing friction. Here are the 3 big things that I've pointed out, how I reduce friction for folks to participate in each of my campaigns. 1 is I've tried to limit as many situations where we need like one-on-one attention. I've talked to a bunch of customer marketing managers that talk about how every time they do like a webinar or every time they do a campaign, they have somebody like put together a quote. They have a one-on-one meeting with the customer where they go through like this questionnaire during the meeting. And oftentimes you don't really need that meeting. That could just be like a form fill for someone to sign really quick. Think about all the barriers that go into setting up a meeting. Even though we have all these cool integrations like Calendly and Chili Piper that help you automate the scheduling the meeting. But then you have to, go through the act of having them actually click that link, going through all the email correspondence of setting up the time. Then you have to wait a week or so to actually get that meeting. And by that time, there's something else that already came up, blah, 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 blah. So oftentimes I've had a lot of success by just trying to take what used to be a meeting where I just go through a questionnaire, turn that into a form, try to make that form sound as personable and fun as possible. And so instead of just, a 2-week-long process of scheduling this meeting and going through that meeting, you just have all the data right there, right away. And it didn't even really require you to do much. There was a great blog from Atlassian where they talked about the flywheel effect, where they said refer to human interaction as a bug. Means that there's something that went wrong along the way is whenever you have to have that one-on-one call with the customer. Well, I wouldn't go that far. I would definitely think about it as, let's make sure that our one-on-one conversations are as meaningful as possible. So if our one-on-one conversations are just going through a questionnaire, maybe that's actually not that helpful for us. Rather, you want to build those personal connections with them. 2 is using data you already have and make assumptions off of it. One thing I kept hearing from a bunch of customer marketing managers was they had a tough time getting people to participate in G2 reviews. And the reason for this was because they would reach out to their customers and say, hey, would you be willing to participate in a G2 review? And then only like 3 or 4 would respond. And then they would send them the G2, campaign link. So then they would fill it out. They would only get 1 or 2 people to participate on this thing that took them forever to, build their list of ideal customers, so on and so forth. And so you have a lot of data to your disposal, whether that's, usage data, whether that's, account attributes, and all this other stuff that you're pulling in, like roundtable conversations, you can use that data that you've gathered to make some big assumptions. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about the assumptions that I've put together. And then lastly is creating FAQs for your team, especially for folks like customer success managers and your support team. I'm going to go through the assumptions that I've made that have really paid off for me. One is assuming that customers who speak up at roundtables want to share their story. So if you're hosting a roundtable where folks are sharing their ideas, the folks that are really excited to raise their hand, those are likely folks who really want to participate in case studies, in other webinars, who, one, they might just like to talk and have their voice heard, which I realize is kind of ironic considering that that's kind of why I'm, doing this video right now. So it's definitely not a moral thing. It's an exciting thing that these are people who are excited to talk, like me. So two is that people who read all the way to the end of a newsletter are more likely to be promoters. Back to a G2 example. Oftentimes when we were putting together G2 reviews, we just did folks who submitted positive NPS scores or folks who just had an incredible experience with us. And so oftentimes you're really afraid to just give the link to everyone in case there's a few folks who are really dissatisfied with your product and are willing to give a negative G2 review out of spite. And what we found was that the folks who go all the way and read all the way to the end of a newsletter are usually our promoters, are the folks who are so excited to see all the things that we have in store for them, whether that's, roundtables or product updates, that they would take the time to read through that whole newsletter. And so when we plugged the G2 review campaign at the bottom of that newsletter, we only got big promoters who were willing to, give those reviews. And so that was our primary way of getting G2 reviews, was by plugging it at the end of that newsletter. We didn't get a single negative review out of that. And then lastly, clients that offer to serve as references are also willing to serve as G2 reviews. So rather than, like I said, using that example before where you would reach out to all your customers and ask, hey, would you be willing to do XYZ? We were able to use a lot of the data based on roundtables and all this sort in order to find folks who'd be willing to participate. This is one of my favorite examples. We had a customer who gave us, I think it was like a 7 NPS score, and then participated in a roundtable later on. And so they had been a customer for like a year and a half. They had given presentations for even our competitors, or they've participated in those webinars. But we never thought to ask because of that passive NPS score. And so after a roundtable, she ended up having some amazing things to say that had our whole audience glued to the screen. Our chat was blowing up. And so at the end, I asked hey, would you be willing to participate in a case study conversation or participate in our upcoming event? And she said, yeah, thank you finally for asking me to speak at your events. I don't know why anybody has asked me or hasn't asked me to speak yet. I've done it for your competitors. I'd be more than happy to speak at your events. And it was because of that passive NPS score that we kind of overlooked her. But in that roundtable conversation that we had, we were able to, identify her as a great speaker. So that's a great way that we used data to make assumptions and all of our experiences to make assumptions on whether or not they'd be interested in participating in other customer advocacy asks. Another great example is with that FAQ doc. This came from a customer success manager on our team. After I wrote this very robust FAQ doc on our upcoming user summit, they said, my customer wanted to do a webinar with us. And rather than having to set up a one-on-one meeting that would have taken us a long time in order to find the availabilities for both of us and the customer, I was able to just copy and paste instructions rather than having to set up a call. So having that FAQ doc ready for our customer success managers and our relationship managers to reference on the call was an absolute game changer. Great. So the next thing you have to do is make the next step obvious. I think we're all aware on how to make a big snowball, right? You start with a small snowball and then you roll it on the ground where it builds upon itself until it becomes a big snowball, which, by the way, this is one of my favorite stock photo images. I don't know how this guy got roped into building a big snowball in his suit, but This is kind of what we want to do with each of our campaigns, right? Is we want the success of one campaign to build upon itself so the next campaign is even better. And so this is how I make the next steps obvious in order to get that. First is whenever I'm planning a new campaign, I like to draw connection points to other programs. For example, if I'm putting together a new retention campaign or an expansion campaign, I like to draw the lines to where that meets with community, where that meets with training, and where that connects with client advisory boards, things like that. So everything is really cohesive and works together and builds upon one another. Number two is striking while the iron's hot. As soon as somebody participates in one campaign, they've already built up that inertia and built up that momentum. So they're likely more willing to participate in the next thing, as long as you follow number three, which is you make it really easy and simple and straightforward to do so. And so this is what I do, to help guide to the next step or ways that I've done this. First is whenever my clients have some kind of form, whether that's registering for a roundtable, an event, a webinar, in the post-completion email or in the follow-up right after they submit the forms, I usually push to some kind of other thing, whether that's our user community or a G2 campaign, or to write a review of Quorum or tell us what they think. That happens directly after they sign up for something. Number two is whenever I'm doing a webinar or a roundtable, I usually like to mention things like, hey, if you really like this, reach out to your customer success manager to give them your feedback. Or if there's something else you would like to see, let them know. Number three is getting reference asks, product feedback, G2 reviews right after an NPS score. So that's something I see a lot of folks doing, is that if you get a positive NPS, then it pushes you over to G2 and other asks. And lastly, you can ask for volunteers during a successful event or right after a successful event. So I'll show you a few examples of how I've done this. This is the slide I like to put up before any of my events. So if I'm doing like a webinar, those first 1 to 5 minutes of a webinar where it's kind of awkward, you're just waiting for folks to join in. And so you're just like, all right, let's wait for folks to join. And you're just kind of smiling at the camera, or you have your camera off. This is when I put up this screen where it says, before we get started, join our user community, where I will also post, the wrap up. So I've gotten a lot of folks to join our community just with this screen here. Additionally, in our follow-up emails and at the end of each webinar, I've had a lot of success with this scripting. Where it was thank you for attending our webinar on XYZ topic. Also, if you're interested in speaking and sharing your experience and expertise on a topic or something similar, let me know using the form below. And that's usually when I, post the form in the chat, or I put it in, the email follow-up. And we get a lot of folks submitting their ideas for webinars, roundtables, case studies, stuff like that. We've had a lot of success with that because we've struck while the iron's hot. We thought about this ahead of time when planning this webinar and content. And lastly, just with each of these forms, we make it extremely easy for people to participate. So that's one great way that we've made the next step super obvious for folks. All right, the last thing to note is continuously applying pressure. Even once that thing starts moving on its own, it's great to continuously apply pressure steadily so folks are consistently engaged. This isn't something where you set it up, do a launch email, and then folks just go to it every week or so. Is you have to be continually doing things that apply pressure for folks to come participate in your campaigns. I do that through creating reoccurring touch points and events, making sure that I'm diversifying my channels, especially outside of email. And then lastly, is a lot of success with getting team member buy-in and support. So especially folks on my customer success team, having them contribute here as well. So here are a few of the reoccurring touch points that I absolutely love. One is email newsletters that catalog all of your upcoming webinars, roundtables, events, product updates, product tips, and ways for them to get involved, like how I mentioned earlier with G2 reviews. It's something that our customers regularly look forward to. And so it's another way to, recurringly put pressure on each of these campaigns. Like I mentioned before, these webinars, roundtables, and events are a great way to, plug each of your campaigns and have things build upon one another. User communities and field marketing. If you have a pre-existing community up, that's great. That's another great way to plug each of your campaigns, but also think about the events that are going on around in your industry, whether that's like different association events, conferences, things like that. Figuring out ways that if you have sponsorship of those events, how you can plug in your customer marketing to delight your customers who are there and use their voice at each of these events to propel your program. And then lastly, surveys, polls, and quizzes. If you have a very active user base that wants to be actively involved in your product decisions and the way that you view the market, they love participating in things like surveys, polls, and quizzes. So these are things that you can set up on a recurring basis that folks actively look forward to. There are two last points that I really wanted to harp on here. And one thing is, what percentage of your client interaction is through email? In order to do this successfully, you can't just have like an email a day coming from your customer success manager asking for each of these things, right? You have to diversify your asks outside of email so you don't overload your clients with email. And also you're reaching folks who don't actively open your emails, which leads me to something I recommend for every team that I talk to, which is figure out what percentage of your clients haven't opened a single email. If you're likely going to be surprised by the number of clients that just haven't engaged with anything you've done via email. When you think about your customer marketing program, there's a solid chance that almost everything you're doing is through email. And so this is a big group of customers that you've just lost out of the gate because you haven't diversified your channels. And so that's why I always recommend that folks think about things like events, sponsorships, ads like LinkedIn ads or Facebook ads, things like that that'll bring folks in that are outside of email for the folks who are not opening your emails for whatever reason. There's a lot of folks who might actually be engaged with the things you have to say, but they get hundreds of emails a day, so they're not going to open up a random like person@product.org. Figure out ways that you can actively engage them outside of email, whether that's in product or one of the best tools that you have to your disposal likely is especially your customer success managers. This is why it's really important for you to get their buy-in. One is that they likely have the best relationship with their customers, so they can make more targeted appeals and requests. So rather than saying, hey, would you be interested in participating in XYZ activity? You can say, hey, I know you do XYZ and you're really good at that. And so I would love for you to participate in this. And so getting your customer success managers to be able to make that ask and bought into the mission of your customer marketing team is extremely important. And then lastly, they can raise red flags when things aren't working. We've had numerous campaigns that we've run that frankly just didn't work at all. And so they've heard some negative feedback from their customers. Or their customers just weren't aware of the campaigns we were running at all. And we wouldn't have known about that without creating a great relationship with customer success managers. So think about your CSMs and those relationship owners as their own channel, not just something that you kind of have to go through. In order to do that, I recommend you create stellar FAQ documents. I put together Loom videos for all of my CSMs saying like, hey, this is what you need to know about this campaign. That way they hear it in my voice, they see my face when I put it together. And for folks who don't want to read through a 3-page FAQ document, they can listen to this video or watch this video. All right, great. Well, thank you so much for coming to this talk. I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn if at all possible. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll be in the comments section down below, or I think it's down below. Maybe it's over here. Wherever it is, you'll probably see me. I'd love to connect and get a chance to talk about customer marketing. And also, again, lastly, the book is called Good to Great by Jim Collins. I 100% recommend that every customer marketer read it. Hope you have a great rest of your event.
These days, authentic customer reviews, referrals, and references are what buyers trust and value most when making purchasing decisions. That's where Influitive comes in. We're the advocacy, community, and engagement platform of choice for the world's most customer-obsessed brands, including Adobe, Cisco, IBM, and Mountain Dew. Our advanced targeting, personalization, gamification, and rewards drive extreme engagement and customer growth at scale. Let Influitive help you turn your customers into loyal advocates and grow your business.
As the only 100% native reference management app for Salesforce, our solution lives where your salespeople live. This means that all your data and reference management functionality are hosted on Salesforce servers, managed in a world-class security infrastructure. There's just one familiar interface to use, which accelerates user adoption. Centralize all your reference assets. Search for relevant accounts and customer content. Automate reference account and content suggestions, the request process, and more. So say goodbye to that reference goat rodeo and say hello to Reference Edge.
Welcome to your PMA Pro membership, your gateway to continued professional product marketing development. Whether you're new to the industry or an experienced practitioner, we've covered all bases with our variety of specialist content, including on-demand presentations, templates, exclusive content, mentors, toolkits, learning paths, and more. So let's take a look at exactly what could be all yours as a pro member. Starting with exclusive articles, jam-packed with in-depth insights from experts at companies like Google, LinkedIn, HubSpot, and Drift. And we add new pieces to your dashboard every single week. Your template hub is packed with 50 plus vetted and tested templates and frameworks designed to streamline fundamental processes. Used by companies such as Slack, Microsoft, Twitter, and TikTok, rest assured, you and your team will be equipped with the best materials to enhance your practice. And better yet, we add new templates into your plan every month. Here at PMA, we have a busy event scheduled year-round. And as a pro member, you'll get access to every presentation on demand to enjoy whenever and wherever you please. Better yet, you won't have to pay a cent to attend our virtual festivals and summits. The discounts don't stop there either. As a pro member, you'll also get 10% off our suite of certification programs. After a structured learning experience, then our product marketing learning paths and toolkits are for you. Whether you've got a positioning overhaul on the horizon, want to upskill in sales enablement, or plan for next quarter's product launch, each toolkit and path features presentations, templates, and guides that'll help you hit the ground running and continue your professional development furthermore. Moving on to our peer councils. They're the perfect platform for live, virtual interaction, and the monthly gatherings allow you to connect with an intimate pod of product marketing leaders to strategize and collaborate. And last but not least is our mentor program. Whether you want to be a mentor, mentee, or both, you can accelerate your personal and professional growth by learning from product marketing heavyweights all over the world. So, with product marketing teams at globally recognized brands such as IBM, TikTok, Uber, and Amazon reaping the benefits of the stellar content on offer, why shouldn't you? Sign up for your PMM Pro membership and access a never-ending flow of tried, tested, and recommended tactics, learn from the leading lights in the industry, fast-track your professional development, and accelerate your career trajectory.
everyone. We hope you're enjoying the Customer Marketing Summit so far. Just before we jump into the next session, we're so excited to announce the launch of Customer Marketing Core Certified. With 55 chapters and 13 modules alongside fireside chats with contributors from Lessonly, Qualtrics, Hotjar, PitchBook, and more, we guarantee you'll receive all the actionable learnings you need to embody your customers and elevate your role. This certification will equip you with knowledge of the most up-to-date customer marketing trends and includes modules on personas, cross-selling and upselling, advocacy and community, storytelling, engagement and retention, just to name a few. Our brand new course will be launching on April 27th, so be sure to pre-register now to save $100. I'll be posting the link in the comments, so keep your eyes peeled. But for now, back to the Customer Marketing Summit.
I have a lot of respect for these next two advocacy and community experts, two award-winning Influitive customers. Let's hear from Jen and Jenny in this fireside chat.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for 5 tips on how to show your community respect. My name is Jenny Asaba, and I oversee community at a technology company based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. My program includes a customer advocacy community, a partner advocacy community, and a support community. And Jen, super excited to be with you today.
Right back at you. My name is Jennifer Szynski, and I oversee customer advocacy and community experience at a fintech headquarters in San Francisco. I am based just outside of London, and I truly think that Jenny and I sit in the best space in both of our companies. Today, we're going to kick off with tip number 1, which is to lead with value. Value comes in all different forms, and it's important that you offer a wide variety, as each advocate will have different needs and wants from your community. One of the main pillars that makes a community fruitful is the value you can provide. So things like focus groups. Who better than your advocates to provide open and honest feedback on the topics that are important to them? What better way to show you are always raising the bar to provide the best solutions and experiences that you can? How to better help product teams make sure that they're aligned in the right path, all roll up into focus groups. Also, another really great space is betas. Who better to test your new offerings or even enhancements that you're making to your existing products? I know for me, one of the best things that I have ever done is hosted a focus group with about 20 customers. And right before we were about to kick off, all of the customers agreed to let us do it in production. For a customer to let you do a beta in their live production environment takes a pretty heavy level of trust, but through an advocacy program over time, you build your customers' trust and respect. Giving them a sneak peek of educational content that you're creating for them is another great area to get advocates involved. Collaborating with your leadership team. I can say for myself, I hosted an event a few years ago and we had our CEO come in. He came in for an hour. These types of events always get my stomach going because you never know what's going to happen, but you deal with it. But our CEO walked into the room with about 25 customers. He sat down next to me. He knew me well and knows that my handwriting is atrocious, so he was taking his own notes. But it was just him, the customers, and I, no extra people. But he asked the customers what's working, what's not, and what else do you need from us? The conversation was extremely engaging. And eventually it went into a conversation about innovation and technology, not just tied to our product, but technology in general, which left, I think, every single customer in that room feeling like for that 1 hour, he was tuned in to them and them only. That is something, if you're able to provide your advocates, it just strengthens the relationship in a way that most other activities can't. Another thing is you can always help elevate their careers. It may feel like a stretch, but as you get to know your advocates, you'll realize on a whole new level the value that you can bring to them. Recently, I had a really great summer. 3 of my advocates, previous advocates, I knew they were looking for jobs. All I did was opened up my network to them. And I can tell you that all 3 of those advocates got the jobs that they were aiming for. So even things like that really, really help build strong relationships.
Yeah, those are just such great points, Jen. I know when you're talking about the leadership team and bringing them in and having those special occurrences, we've done that in a similar way where we've had both our CTO and our CEO, and we're bringing in other leaders this year to our virtual meetups. And the customers almost can't believe it. They're like, wait, your CEO is willing to give an hour of his time to come and just answer our questions? And I'm like, yes. And they love it. It's one of their favorite moments with the other heroes in the year. And going back to helping them elevate their careers, I just found out recently that one of our heroes, who he said he got his current job because of his connection with community at Jamf, and he is becoming a Jamf actually in a week. So it's just really, really fun to go and watch those customers kind of grow in their spaces and achieve those levels of success, and that you in some way had a small part in that is really, really meaningful. I think far too often too, community managers and more specifically customer advocacy programs, they start with building blocks of what do we as an organization need to get from our customers. And that, in my opinion, and I know you agree with me on this, Jen, is the polar opposite of what they should be asking. So like you said, these programs need to lead with value. That means planning structure and strategy around the question instead, how can this community help our customers? I know you do that so well, Jen, and other community managers who see a lot of success, that's the question they lead with. Driving value with everything that you previously mentioned, Jen, is how communities will keep that interest of their members and ultimately generate success for their own organizations over time. So now we can move on to tip number 2, which is meet advocates in their comfort zones. So this one really ties nicely into our first tip because, again, so many communities start with the idea that they'll provide the space and the members will come. But that, friends, is not the best way to approach customer advocacy because just like you have preferences for how you want to engage with others, whether it be friends, vendors, even a cashier at the grocery store, your customers have ways that they want to engage with you and your organization as well. I have customers who feel definitely the most comfortable interacting one-on-one in Slack. Others really like shooting over long, thoughtful emails, which I really appreciate. Some of them really want to get to know others in a virtual meetup by discussing hot topics, while others just kind of sit back, they turn their cameras off, and they just want to listen. And any of these methods of engagement are okay as long as the community managers respect those behaviors. Jen, what do you think?
I could not agree with you more. Each advocate will have their own comfort level where they start off, but also a level that they are legally allowed to participate on your behalf. So it's really important that we as community managers adjust to their comfort zones. A great thing to do is as soon as an advocate comes in, always try to gather information that can help you identify what they want to do on your behalf. It will ensure you are setting up both sides of the table for success. The relationship will be more successful. And really be mindful where asks or concerns. Ways that you can help them grow their confidence for being a vocal cheerleader. Make sure they're up to date with your solution. The more knowledge that they have, the more in depth they can speak on your behalf. The more in depth they can speak, the more confidently they're going to speak. If your advocate's shy, or you have multiple advocates that are shy, don't kind of brush them aside. Think of ways that you can help them. A great way would be maybe to fund a Toastmaster session for them, or maybe it's you offer it one-on-one or as a group. Would prefer to offer it as a group so that they get to know each other a lot better and they build a stronger bond. That will help them elevate their personal success, which in return will help elevate their acts of advocacy for you. Get them involved with opportunities to collaborate with internal stakeholders. All customers want is to know they're in a partnership with a company and not just feel like a number. My favorite success story is I had a customer that came to an event in Vegas. He was so shy, he could not walk into the introduction meeting. So I had to actually meet him somewhere. This customer, over a space of 3 years, we had the GM of our sales play was leaving the company. He was hosting his last town hall, and this customer was the customer that he requested. Because over the 3 years, he became such a confident speaker with our product. Several of the features that our product had were his brainchild, that he felt confident enough going to the product management team and pitching. He spoke for us at multiple events because he had a passion for the product. But not only did he have a passion for the product, he knew that we had a partnership. It went both ways. He knew I was in his corner. Anything that he needed from me, I made sure that I helped him get there. So that's a bond that will outlast the job, the product, and everything else, but we will still have that very solid bond. Another really important fact that I think we need to point out is don't push your advocates on an ask that's outside their comfort zone. This will for sure affect your relationship in a negative way, but there'll also be lasting ramifications. You're the gatekeeper of your community, and you are your advocate's advocate within your hub. Make sure you lead with respect. If you feel an advocate is not the right fit for the ask, or it's simply not the right time, there's always another advocate that you can find that will fit the bill, and the spotlight that's put on them will be the right spotlight, and it will be a successful spotlight. I just think respect is one of the number one pillars of any environment. And when you can get the secret sauce right, it will last.
Yeah, 100,000,000% yes to all of that, Jen. I think it is incredibly important. And this is where we've talked about before, really getting to know your advocates on a personal level, because that's the only way that you know what their comfort zone is. You have to actually get to know them. I'm going to add one more thing here too, as we've talked about many times. Please, 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 please do not expect your advocates to do all or even the majority of your marketing for you. While some of them may not mind participating in these asks, it's really unfair for community managers to assume that the majority of them would. So if you have the opportunities for them to share your ebooks and white papers, please make sure that it's very clear that these asks are 100% optional for your advocates. Again, think holistically about the comfort levels of your advocates and meet them where they're at. Everything you mentioned, Jen, really awesome points. This cannot be focused on enough by community managers. So I hope these tips have helped specifically in this area. And now we're going to go to our third tip, and this is help your advocates level up. And of course, we're not talking video games. I would not be the person to have that conversation with. Rather, this means helping your advocates develop new skills. So at GF, we do this in a few different ways. Of course, we provide them with the materials they need to understand what's going on with changes in our products. But more so, we provide our advocates or our GF heroes with a variety of ways to really learn from each other over time. We do this through GF hero bios, where they get to learn about each person and what their levels of experience and expertise are. We create the space for lots of learnings through virtual meetups, which I already mentioned briefly. And then we really encourage a lot of both one-to-one and one-to-many interactions through our Slack channel, which is always happen on lots and lots of different topics. Really fun to watch. So our heroes are consistently saying how much they are learning from the program. And for us, the majority of it is really through those hero to hero interactions.
I love that, Jenny. Actually, I might have to steal your hero bios thing because I'm building out Tally Luminaries right now, and I knew we were going to have Advocate of the Month, but hero bios could be a nice add-on that's more content gets pushed out that way. Personally, I love the feeling when you have that first aha moment where you've moved from a community to a family. I love when that happens in the community as a whole, but with a person, when you finally see the light bulb goes off and the person that is interacting realizes this is a solid community that I can depend on. A very good skill that you can have there is being able to separate transactional from non. I think that that's really important, which is easier said than done for some people. I've seen it many times, or many more times than I care to admit, where a community lead is simply focused on the asks from their own company. It's not truly caring about building meaningful relationships that can last the test of time and the road bumps that you might hit. They're just focused on what in my marketing funnel can I fill. So I think ways that you can invest in your advocates is spotlighting them internally or externally where you know that they excel, really listening to them and uncovering where you can bring them value. Examples of some areas where you can help them upskill is being more confident, strutting their stuff, so to speak. You know they are crashing their glass ceilings, so why not collaborate with them and share loud and proud about that? If they are interested in being a thought leader, loop them into your social team and make suggestions about how you guys can collaborate together. If they're writing blogs, why not get your company to share the blogs? Companies have a bigger bandwidth and arm span than your normal customer. So help elevate them. Jenny, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I completely agree that sharing blogs, at least with our community, is one of the best things that you can do to showcase their expertise, because they're willing to put in the work and write a blog. It is not hard for any organization to go through, put a little polish on it. You get it up on your website. And then that's highlighting, of course, not only really a true testimonial from a customer of how they're using the product, how much they love it, that they're willing to take the time to write a blog, but then it allows you to kind of, like you said, shine that light on them and say, like, look at what this person is doing to succeed. And that builds credibility for themselves in their own professional career. So I love the blog idea. There's lots of different, we could talk, for an hour just on this topic, but I think whenever you can highlight your customers and the successes that they have, whether it's on your own social sites, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's through Slack, please do it, because it really does make a difference.
It does. Which brings us to our fourth tip, which is setting expectations internally. This is such a critical step to the success of every program and its longevity, and is really broken into two portions. One is clearly educating your internal teams about the benefits of the program and what is needed for success. There is no community out there that has set it and forget it. If you have one, I would like to know your secret. Then number two is to make sure that you clearly define the lines between customer advocacy and customer marketing. Some examples of defining benefits and what is needed. Let's take sales, for example. Where to get plugged in? Do they need a sales reference call? What is the benefit? Less stress during their sales cycle with more meaningful calls taking place. What do we need from them? We need them to nominate customers to our community. Product and engineering. Where can they get plugged in? quick access to customer insight, the benefit of us being able to raise the bar on our customers' expectations and make sure that we're setting them up for success with enhancements and new features. What do we need as the community lead? It would be really great if they could commit to, say, bi-yearly product roadmap sessions, as well as regular focus groups and betas. Support is also a part of this. Where can they get plugged in? Insight from customers in the areas that we're struggling, and the ability to be more proactive. Support is such a touchy subject for every single company that exists. The more proactive we can be, the less road bumps we're going to hit. What is the benefit? Long term, it should really lead to reduced support costs and better customer experience. What do we need from them? I can speak for myself. I've been very lucky where I've had support teams that have always played a very active role in my discussion forums, but they've also hosted bi-monthly sessions for topics that are top of mind for our customers. And that breaks down a wall and it creates an environment where customers feel like this is a two-way street. If Jen happens to be taking a vacation, which doesn't happen very often, but they have other contacts within our company that they feel comfortable going to. And then lastly, I think the simplest definition I could give anybody, and this has been my definition for years of customer advocacy versus customer marketing, is advocacy is really about what you bring to the table that provides additional value on top of the product your customers are paying for. And customer marketing is aligned to the activities that lead to ROI for your company. So an example is a focus group in a beta is customer advocacy. A reference call is customer marketing. Speaking with your leadership team is customer advocacy. And speaking at an event for you is customer marketing.
Awesome. Again, all great stuff there, Jen. Educating your org on the purpose of community and doing it routinely as new staff are always joining is vitally important because, as you said, there is no such thing as a set it and forget it community. At GAMP, so we do this routinely with department trainings, all company presentations about our program, frequent Slack updates, and even LinkedIn messages because let's face it, sometimes it is just easier to share information with your colleagues through LinkedIn than it is through internal channels. You know I'm right. So reach out to people in whatever way you can to get the messages out there. And lastly, we are going to head now to tip number 5, which very well could be my favorite. And that is to have fun. You get it? Have fun. This may be the biggest element that's forgotten when people build community programs, but it's also one of the most important, if not the most important, because if we go back to treating people like individuals instead of accounts, as Jen mentioned earlier, we need to create enough diversified experiences that create fun moments for our community members. For some, these are having little quizzes about the current holiday within your program, or for others, it will be participating in a jokes and juggling session, watching a mentalist together, participating in a guided meditation together, volunteering virtually, or any number of other things that people tend to find fun. And yes, we've done all of the things I just mentioned within Heroes, and they were all very warmly welcomed. So think outside of the box and please do not forget to give your advocates the chance to just laugh and relax. They really deserve it.
I could not agree more that you must have fun with your advocates. The juggling session sounds like a blast though, Jenny. Not sure if I would want to be juggling anything fragile, but I guess we could try with oranges. But yeah, in all seriousness, I can't agree more that every program needs to infuse fun. As I'm educating internally right now, I talk about fun and I see people's faces. They're like, no, this needs to be 100% serious. But it is reminding them that we are working with human beings. They might work at a company that we do business with, but everybody needs to let their hair down. Everybody has that couple of minutes in their day where they just need an outlet to do something that's not tied to their work. What better way than to offer them fun options within your environment? So there you have it, folks. Those are our 5 tips on how to show your community respect. We'll go over them once more. Lead with value, meet your advocates in their comfort zones, help your advocates level up, set expectations internally, and have fun. We thank you for joining us, and we really hope that you enjoy the rest of the conference. We hope that you've walked away with some knowledge that you're able to implement in your communities, and most of all, we hope we've inspired you.
Thanks so much, everybody. Enjoy the conference. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Working from home. Time to make some progress on this blog post. What's this? Account executives, do you have healthcare case studies? No, of course not. Proof points about how we're different, better than competitors? What's wrong with the sales team? ROI stats for the website. Man, positive reviews on G2. This is ridiculous. Wait a second. I forgot we have user evidence. Hey team, it's all here. We're good.
Cisco is a 2-time Program of the Year in Fluitive Customer. They know how to capture and share the authentic voice of customers better than anyone. Let's hear from Kate on how Cisco Meraki does it. Cisco is a 2-time...
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Customer Marketing Summit. Up next, we have an incredible live session, so don't forget to ask your questions in the chat as we'll be hosting a Q&A at the end. With that said, please welcome Kate Vanas, Head of Customer Marketing at Cisco.
Thank you so much, Beth. Hello, fellow customer marketers and fans of customer insight. I am excited to share with you today 4 steps to improve your customer listening strategy. Your company is probably already listening to the voice of the customer, but perhaps the feedback is staying in silos. There might be limited awareness about all the treasure troves of insights that's stashed about your business. This makes it really challenging to empower employees to ground their decision-making in customer voice. It can also erode your customer's experience, as it's likely they're being asked the same question from multiple teams. From the customer perspective, that can feel a little bit tone deaf. Another challenge of having a decentralized approach to voice of customer is that you're really only seeing slices of customer feedback. So you can't really see the forest from the trees in what your customers are telling you. It's like, slide change, inspecting an elephant blindfolded. So you might detect a wall, a tree, a snake, a rope, a spear, or a fan, but you sure won't detect the elephant. Feedback in silos really makes you susceptible to proximity blindness. Transforming your business to listen to customer voice in a holistic way allows you to see the trends, the big ideas, the pain points across all of your customer base, as well as the nuances with specific audiences. So not only will you hear what your customers are telling you better, you'll be better equipped to respond to what they're telling you. So you are likely already keen on making this transformation, or you wouldn't be with us. So let's go ahead and get started. The first step is to identify your key stakeholders to go on this journey with you. At Cisco Meraki, we had a customer experience squad in place championed by our VP of product, support, customer success, and marketing. So our voice of the customer initiative already had built-in executive support from these leaders. But fear not, if you don't have that, you can build your own CX squad. Arguably, the most important member of this squad is a very strong executive champion. The role of this leader is to build excitement for the cause and to help set the expectation that this is a priority. It's pretty rare to find someone across your business that would tell you they don't care about customer insight. It's more a matter of convincing stakeholders why now and why they should prioritize this project over something else. Your executive champion might be your president or CMO. It could be the leader of technology, product, marketing, or customer success. You'll want to work with this executive sponsor to introduce the program to the teams that will be allocating a representative to your working group. So this will pave the way, because then when you appear to make this request to join the journey, you'll have a warm welcome. Beyond your executive champion, let's talk about your other stakeholders. So you'll want to identify the teams across your business that own a customer feedback channel. So this might be the team managing social listening, might be your customer advisory boards, your executive briefing center experiences, of course, your surveys, your customer effort score, your CSAT, your NPS surveys. Your UX team is also a feedback channel. Of course, your online community has a wealth of insights coming in from your customers, and your product team, your product wish lists, product feedback, and betas. You'll also want to identify representatives from your company that will be big consumers of this voice of the customer hub, the centralized place that you'll build, who may not own a feedback channel. So this might be product marketing, audience marketing, solutions marketing, could be your sales teams. So now you've got your dream team, your voice of the customer squad. The next step is to really understand the feedback channels you have in place today. What type of insight are you getting? How is it used? What form does it take? How is it shared? At what frequency? How are you closing the feedback loop with customers in those channels as well? Once you have a sense of your current landscape, excuse me, you're ready to work with your voice of the customer squad to centralize your insights. So here we go, we're at step 2. And this is where you're really going to define the strategy for your voice of the customer hub. We did this in the form of a one-day workshop with our voice of the customer squad. We used the landscape of the current feedback channels that we talked about in the previous step as sort of our starting point. And the goal of the session was really to identify our requirements. We weren't able to be in the same room together, but our UX team expertly led the session in a way that felt like we were. So we used Miro board as the whiteboard and kind of our working space. In the agenda, we started with a how might we exercise to really focus on what this centralized voice of the customer hub should look like. What were the most important attributes? This was really a sky's the limit kind of approach. The next part of the workshop was to really prioritize the ideas by impact to the business and difficulty to implement. So we really wanted to take an MVP approach so that we could stand up something quickly that we could build on over time. So MVP, minimum viable product. Some of the key considerations that came out of the session were access. This will be an internal resource, but we wanted to make sure that not only our Meraki team, but our Cisco team could access this, this voice of the customer hub. We also identified 2 distinct audience types. One is the individuals that would go to the voice of the customer hub, roll up their sleeves and dig into the data. Another is a group that really just wanted a very succinct summary, like our sales team. Maybe they just want a 90-second overview of what our customers are telling us each month. So we really wanted to keep the needs of those different audiences in mind. Another important requirement or discussion point was around how to socialize this voice of the customer hub and really embed it into the fabric of the culture. How to ensure that it's discoverable, that there'll be adoption, that it will be leveraged. We also identified the need of a narrator, someone who would look across our feedback channels and look across what we're hearing in the voice of the customer hub and bring a summary forth to the business, whether that's a few slides, whether it's a recorded video, something written form, someone to really bring that narration. So we determined that our MVP of a voice of the customer hub looks a little bit more like a table of contents. So all of the feedback channels that were living in those various silos across the business are now brought together in one place, even if in some instances we were linking off to the actual source. We also selected 6 feedback channels to start with that were in a more mature state. And in future phases, we'll have deeper data integration and more ability to interact with the data in a dynamic way. It took a bit of time to align on the right platform to use for the voice of the customer hub. We aligned on using Elation, something that we were already using within the business, and it worked really well for dynamic dashboards like you would expect your NPS data to look like. But it also works well for more text-based summaries that you might have from a customer advisory board readout or an executive briefing center readout. And that type of feedback was really important to us to include as well. So you are now halfway through our steps for a better customer listening strategy. You've assembled your voice of the customer squad, you have your executive champion there, getting everybody excited. You've mapped out a solid plan to launch your voice of the customer hub. You're in a good spot to listen to the voice of the customer. But the next step is to respond. Beginning to close the feedback loop with customers can feel overwhelming. It can feel like staring at a blank canvas, but take that same minimum viable product, the same MVP approach we talked about for the voice of the customer hub, and think about it in the world of good, better, best. So start small with ensuring that the in-the-moment experience for customers is the best it possibly can be. So if feedback is coming in via survey, are you really tailoring your thank you pages based on their input? This is really easy to do in most platforms. You might want to think about inviting promoters to join your reference program and to write an online review. If a customer is interested in participating in research, tailor the thank you page so that you can strike while the iron is hot. Maybe you want to invite them right there on the spot to join a beta that's enlisting participants right at that moment. For detractors, offer a personalized follow-up to the customer. That response maybe triggers the support or product team to reach out to that individual who has expressed that they want to be communicated with. As we look at options in the better category, you might craft a tailored response and insert a token or piece of dynamic content using your marketing automation system. So this really feels very personalized, but it's a relatively easy lift. You're really just tailoring that kind of 25% of the message. In the best category is real human follow-up, with a summary of the conversation brought back into your CRM like Salesforce. You might reserve this only for detractors or for customers that have suddenly shifted from longtime promoters to passives, or customers using a certain product line. Be sure to think through the full workflow of this follow-up and really provide resources to guide the person doing the outreach, talking points, make sure they're really clear on what's expected of them and the process. But you don't have to just choose good, better, or best. You could mix and match. You could decide to take an approach based on a certain customer type or topic. In any category, be sure to set up a process to put customers into follow-up buckets. So that way, when you address customer feedback and maybe you launch a new product line or a new service or a new way of managing subscriptions, exactly what the customer was asking for, this is the opportunity to do that special outreach to the customer and letting them know that you've taken their feedback to heart and the customer will feel heard. In the same way you keep follow-up buckets for customer feedback, don't forget future iterations. So your customer listening strategy will never be done. You'll never be able to wipe your hands and say it's complete. There'll always be room for optimization. So keep that running list of how you can continue to iterate and scale the process. So maybe some things that don't make your minimum viable product approach for your voice of the customer hub or closing the feedback loop might be something like putting a process in place to control survey fatigue across all touch points. Especially if you're in a world right now where there's different survey platforms being used to target your customers or partners, you really want to have that control so you can have that view at the customer level of what's being sent. Another area for optimization is centralizing survey creation so that you have that same tone. If it's not an opportunity to centralize surveys within the same role or team, define survey best practices that will be used across the business whenever customer feedback is collected. So are you using a 5-point Likert scale? Is your tone consistent? Are you asking questions in the same way? Another opportunity for optimization is tighter integration of the feedback channels. I mentioned how our MVP of the Voice of the Customer Hub, more like a table of contents, but as we evolve, we really want those data sources to be coming together. So that's definitely something to iterate on over time. Bringing more feedback channels into your Voice of the Customer Hub. Maybe there is a channel that just wasn't at a state of maturity yet to really loop in, and that's something you're going to pull in the future. Certainly expanded language support. Ideally, you're going to get to a place where this is happening at a really consistent, reliable level for all languages. The frequency of the readout is something you can always turn up the volume on. Maybe you commit initially to this narrator talking about the trends we're seeing across the business just on a quarterly basis. And then you can increase that to monthly and even look at other types of cadences. The good, better, best approach to the feedback loop. We talked about maybe you pick and choose different ways to follow up based on product line or audience, but you can always turn up the volume there. To another piece here is to make sure that you're integrating requests into your internal ticketing system for that kind of immediate follow-up. So to recap, we talked about securing executive support, talked about building your Voice of the Customer squad, identifying your feedback channels and really understanding what they look like today, really mapping out what the Voice of the Customer Hub will look like for your business, for the launch, the MVP launch, and then how will it iterate over time? What does that roadmap look like? We talked about building the socialization plan and really embedding that into the fabric of your culture. We talked about this MVP approach for your Voice of the Customer Hub, taking that good, better, best approach to closing the feedback loop, even if you're starting small. Identifying those follow-up buckets to really surprise and delight customers when you've delivered on their feedback, and keeping in mind to always iterate, optimize, and scale your strategy. Beth, do we have any questions?
Thanks so much, Kate. That was great. So yeah, we've got a few questions from the audience. First one is, how do you or who determines the best cadence for collecting customer feedback?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think some of it will depend on what you can commit to initially. While it was amazing, we already had a CX squad to sort of champion this, we really didn't have, this was just a portion of what people were doing in addition to their day job. So we wanted to be mindful to not commit to something that we couldn't uphold. So for us right now, that's at a quarterly basis. Ideally, though, it would be more frequent. It would be once a month and maybe even once a week. So I think you just need to be realistic with what you can support. But the greater the frequency, that's always better.
Yeah, definitely. And what would closing the feedback loop look like for product wish lists?
So there's so many great tools out there to help you manage your product wish lists that kind of automatically, if you think about those buckets, automatically fold customers into buckets for follow-up. But if you don't have something like that, that automated kind of email we talked about could be a good place to start, to begin to create those buckets of follow-up, so that you're doing that touch point, you're thanking customers for their feedback, maybe giving them a little visibility about how you think about that component in your roadmap. So there's a lot out there, but you can also start small.
Yeah, great answer. And in regards to teams, what teams will implementing voice of customer strengthen, in your opinion?
Yeah, so your customer experience team would be a natural home for this. I head up customer marketing. We look after voice of the customer, advocacy, and customer stories and life cycle. So for us, it sits there, but really varies based on your org structure. Voice of customer is so important to our product teams, so important to our marketing teams. Hopefully it's important to everybody. So I think there's a lot of different places it could live, but I think most commonly it would be your CX team or customer success.
And how do you determine the objective of your customer insights program?
Yeah. I think we could all agree that at the heart, the objective is to help customers feel heard and to make sure we're getting the visibility about what customers are telling us. But there could be so many other objectives that are coming into the fold for your organization as well. Certainly informing how you go to market, how you prioritize your future roadmap. So I think you just need to work with your CX squad. I think that'll be a good group of people that you assemble to identify if there's nuances and if there's specific objectives that make sense for your business.
Yeah, no, definitely. And we just had another one come in. Thoughts on bringing the customer into the prioritization exercise, perhaps in a small focus group?
Ooh, that is a very cool idea. Yeah, I think that could be interesting. I mean, I really see the voice of the customer hub being something that's a gem of an internal resource for you. But it is a really important note that this will be sort of your touchstone to listen to the voice of your customer. So why not loop in your customer to get their insight? That's an excellent idea. That's very cool.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Kate. Really, really great session and really great answers. I'm sure that everyone learned a lot. So really, really appreciate you being involved in the summit. If everyone wants to connect with you, can they do so? There we go. Perfect. Amazing. All right. Well, thanks so much again, Kate. And yeah, speak to you soon.
Thank you so much.